Hey everyone. I am coming to you to do this review of the Sword in the Stone. Um, because I really want the Disney Plus reviewer job. No, like I'm planning on going into a Disney coma beginning when that platform launches, and I figure I could review Disney's platform. I'm sure because I'm gonna be hooked into it like the Matrix. So why not? Anyway, it's the day after Halloween, so hence the blanket. It got cold here in Oklahoma, and the leftover eye makeup. Forgive that. I am sorry, but I wanted to get this knocked out before I forgot, and then the deadline had passed because it's important. Anyway, um, the it had been a long time since I watched The Sword and the Stone, and I loaded it up with my daughter the other day because I was like, I want to watch this movie. It was either that or The Black Cauldron that I wanted to choose from, and I picked The Sword and the Stone because I loved Merlin and changing into animals when I was little, and I wanted to review it as an adult and see if I remembered it correctly or what parts I may have forgotten, that kind of thing. And so the very first thing I remember or noticed when it's like started is that the colors, they were so different than the colors now, and I didn't even think about that, but the shades of red and blue are different, and they're brighter. Not necessarily, it's more like a color palette from an artist than it is a computer generated or formatted picture. And I'm guessing it's because they really were done as art back in the day. There was a lot of coloring. It was all done by hand. I don't imagine they had a computer to fix that or correct it. So the colors, they stood out as more of like a natural pigment. It's the very first thing I noticed. Then the other thing that I loved was the music. It was all very, like, it flowed very well. It was very orchestrated at the beginning. The voices that were mixed in with the orchestra, I really liked that too. But onto the movie and the action and stuff. We see Merlin and Archimedes getting ready for a visitor, and he doesn't know who. He just knows he can see this person running towards them. And at the same time, Arthur or Wart is running through the woods to retrieve an arrow from his, I don't know what the guy is. Like, I don't know that that's ever clear. I guess his foster brother, because at some point the dad says he's fostering the kid. But Arthur is not their kid. He's training to be the squire or page of the other boy. And yeah, that's kind of weird, but medieval times, whatever. So he's running through the woods. He falls into Merlin's house, and Merlin's just like, hey, yo, I'm going to go live with you. And the kid doesn't question this. And the magic starts happening, and all the books start shrinking, and they all fit into a little bag, which is also cute, and the music is good for that, and I love the song. And anyway, Archimedes getting stuck in the house, and then it's shrinking around him, and it was all cute and fun. But I was just love the way Merlin was like, yeah, I'm coming to live with you, and the kid's like, oh, okay, sure. Like, he's in this sudden world that the teacup is dancing and the books are shrinking and the whole room fits in a bag. And he doesn't really seem too disturbed by it, because I would likely have, run out of the house screaming bloody murder and not come back. So, yay for Arthur being a better adaptable person than me? I don't know. So, then once he gets to the house, the dad figure is like, no, you're not staying here. And he's like, oh yeah, well, I'll just do magic till you make me stay, or let me stay. And this is the part where I was like, what is happening? Because he does magic, like creates a snowstorm, disappears, all kinds of fantastical stuff. And they let him stay in this rickety old rundown tower that has holes in it and rain's pouring in. And I'm like, Merlin has magic. Why doesn't he fix the tower? Like, Yeah, no, that would, like, at least temporarily while he lived there. I wouldn't live in squalor if I had magic. I don't know. Does that make me a bad wizard? Good wizard? Because I would use it for my own personal benefit? I have no idea. But then, so he complains about the holes in the rain and everything, but he doesn't use magic to fix it, which just made me go, what? Then the very first exercise they do is he turns Arthur into a bird. No, fish. The very first one's a fish. So he turns him into a fish, and they go swimming in the moat. And they have to outrun a big fish that comes and attacks them. It looks like something out of the prehistoric era, but, I have no idea what kind of fish it's supposed to represent. And Archimedes saves him even though he says he hates the boy, so that's cute. And the owl is very adorable doing that. And up and down, to and fro. That's a cute song too, and it gets stuck in here. So they do that and go back, and he gets in trouble, and he has to wash dishes. And so Merlin's like, "Why are you washing dishes? I'll cast a spell, and the dishes will wash themselves." So then they go and they become squirrels. I think that's the order that happened in. I think it was dishes, washing, squirrels. And they're running through the trees, being squirrels, and a little girl squirrel falls in love with Arthur. And Merlin says they mate for life. She's picked her mate, it's forever. You can't tell her you're not a squirrel. She doesn't know. This is horrifying, because in about 5 minutes, Arthur changes back from a squirrel into a boy, and that girl squirrel no longer has her mate that she just picked for life. I'm sad. My daughter was sad. It was sad. Like, it just was sad. I felt so bad for that poor girl squirrel that fell in love with a little boy squirrel that doesn't exist anymore. Like, I had a hard time with that. I didn't expect to, but I did. I don't remember it so much as a kid, but watching it again as an adult, especially with my daughter and seeing her reaction when she was like, "Well, but who is the squirrel gonna love now? She loved him forever." And I'm like, I don't know. Apparently she gets to be a old spindly squirrel without a husband because her mate for life turned out to be a human. I'm not sure, and that little hanging thread left me sad. And then they go back, and he might get an, okay, so the dishes are washing themselves. They go back inside, and the father and the foster brother have found out, and they run down there to fight the dishes. I don't know why. And they all get washed in the tub, and they decide that this magic is horrible and evil, and it's dark magic because the dishes are washing themselves and they're not supposed to be. And Merlin gets mad and disappears, and Arthur defends Merlin. And, they take away his ability to be a squire or whatever, and say he has to just do chores, and he's not going to go participate in the tournament and the games and stuff. And he gets really upset by this, but Merlin comes back and says, "It's okay, we'll work on your lessons, we'll do other magic stuff." He didn't want him to do it anyway. And then they turn into birds. Well, he turns Arthur into a bird, and he stays as a grown-up person, and he lets Archimedes teach him how to be a bird. And then an eagle tries to take Arthur, and there's a lot of bird shenanigans that go on with Archimedes. But at the end of that, he falls into the house of the Mad Madam Mim, which is another wizard who is a dark wizard. Hold on a second. So she's sorry about that. I have to have my coffee after Halloween. I have to have my coffee every morning, but especially this morning. So she starts showing him, like, you have to use magic for good. You can be bad and use magic. And Archimedes goes and gets Merlin and tells him, and he comes to rescue right as she's about to eat Arthur. as a bird. He comes and rescues Arthur, and they go to a magician's duel, and she cheats, and Merlin turns into a virus and infects her, which I thought was great. And then at the end, they leave her alive. She's just infected with this virus that they say is going to have to run its course for a couple weeks. They leave her there. That seems fair. She turned into a dragon. She should have to be a virus. I don't know, but I didn't like. As a kid, it wouldn't have mattered. As an adult, I'm like, if he was a virus that infected her, when he pulled himself out of her and was no longer the virus and became Merlin again, she wouldn't still be sick. I don't know. That's my adult brain working. My child was fine. She was like, oh yeah, that works. Like, okay. So that's a suspension of disbelief for adults, which is good. That's what Disney movies are all about. So then, the next thing that happens is he goes back home, and it turns out that the boy who was supposed to take Arthur's place as the page got sick and couldn't go. And so Arthur's going to get to go. Merlin gets so mad at this news because he was wanting to train Arthur for something special that he flies to the future to Bermuda and leaves Archimedes with Arthur. And they go and they get back to they go to the tournament in London and everything, and the brother needs a sword, and the hotel is locked, and Arthur can't get the sword, so he goes and grabs the sword in the stone. And the foster dad is like, you're lying that you pulled this out of the stone, because he doesn't know what it is. He hands it over to him, and it says, whoever pulls the stone out of the sword is the King of England. And the dad's like, oh, you're lying. This isn't the sword. You didn't pull it out, whatever. And so they march back as a group, and they put the sword back in the anvil. And the brother's like, oh, well, you already pulled it out. I should be able to pull it out now and be king. And he can't, because, it's a magic sword. And Arthur goes and pulls it out, and there's song and light from the heavens, and, it's clearly saying, no, he's the future king. And then he gets put in the palace, and everybody is chanting Arthur, and he's really scared, and Merlin shows up and says, it'll all be okay. This is how it was supposed to be. So if he knew that this was how it was supposed to be, why did he leave him alone with the part about him pulling out the stone? Like, I don't know. Kind of bothers me a little bit. I have no idea. So, yeah. I was like, oh, okay. And then I forgot that it just ends. Like, it ends. Like, Arthur got to be king as a little boy and is there with Merlin and Archimedes, and that's the end. I don't know. I was like, that is very open and conclusive, and yeah. What? So I still loved it, but I was like, what? Why is that the end? I don't understand. So I guess like here 40 years later, we could have a follow-up about Arthur and the Round Table and Merlin. Not really, but it was very open-ended. And as a kid, I remember thinking, of all the possibilities. So as a child, it was open-ended in a good way, because I could make believe of what happened with the adventures of Arthur and Merlin, and I knew the story of the Round Table, and so it kind of just flowed together. Adult me is like, no, that's not where the story ends. But I think as a kid, I liked it a lot because of that, because of the open-ended story. So the things that I liked as a kid were not the same that I liked and enjoyed as an adult. But that's how it is when you revisit things from your childhood. So anyway, I hope you liked the review. Thanks.